My name is John Sears. I'm the Lean Coordinator for the Vermont Department of Environmental Conservation. I'm here today with Jamie Bates, and together we are going to be doing some brainstorming exercises. So we're going to start with two different ways of looking at brainstorming. One, which is kind of a hands-off, separate process, and the other one's very much more hands-on. So I'm going to be talking about brainwriting first. Brainwriting is a really great tool that is about iteration. It's a tool that allows people to think and ponder and evaluate their ideas. It's really great, especially if you have a group of people that likes to spend time thinking about things before offering up their ideas. One of the limitations of a facilitated brainstorming event is it's very much in the moment. And some people like to think about things. They like to have ideas wander around their head, and they like to be inspired by other people's ideas. This is a really great tool to help them do that. So fundamentally, it works like this, where if you have, for example, 3 people that need to do some brainstorming exercises, each one gets an opportunity to present their ideas on anywhere between 1 and a dozen topics. And they can go ahead and write their ideas. This is phase 1 of the brainstorming exercise, or cycle 1, as we call it in this training. And so during this cycle, you can have any amount of time elapse, anywhere from a day, a week, a month, whatever makes sense for the effort, for people to put down their ideas. And they might have any number of ideas on any number of topics. And every single person in that group is going to do that. When the first cycle is over, we begin what's called cycle 2. So we shuffle the people. So person A started this one, person B started this one, person C started this one, but now person A is going to be working on person B's list. Person B will be starting on person C's list, and person C will be starting on person A's list. They'll be able to look at the ideas that were presented by the previous person and use it as inspiration, use it as a jumping off point, provide some alternative ideas, look at it and evaluate those ideas, talk about the hurdles, challenges, new ideas that it inspires in them. And then you loop through it until everyone's had a chance to review everyone's ideas, and people are going to be reviewing ideas of ideas. And so it's really like this branching path of brainstorming and creativity that works really well remotely, in that you set it up, you have to make some slight modifications with each cycle, but it really lets people focus in on the work. So when would you use a brainstorming exercise like this? It's a tool which prioritizes reflection. It really lets you look at something, put your information in there, and it doesn't function like a form, right? It's not like you submit your ideas and then they're gone. They live in a place. You can look at them, you could think about them, you can add to them. You could be inspired by your own ideas, or you wake up in the morning and you have a fresh idea that you're like, oh man, I really want to put that on there. You can just go back and do it. So it's really a great tool for that. It's asynchronous tool. It functions a lot like a meeting does, except without needing the meeting. It's a meeting that takes place over a week or a month or whatever time frame you want to happen, because you're still allowing people to offer their ideas and allowing responses to those ideas. And it's also really great if you have some personalities that in a big meeting might get smushed out by the people that like to talk more, or have great ideas, but maybe they're a bit shy around sharing them. It's a really great opportunity to allow that work to shine. And it's great for leadership brainstorming in particular. It's because it's just sort of out there, it leaves it open to them tackling it whenever whenever they have a chance to look at it. It's also really great because leadership tends to come into meetings and they're rapidly trying to transition from the last meeting that they had, right? This allows them to really focus in on the material and come back to it and think about it. And because you're getting feedback and feedback on the feedback, it's a really vital tool for getting in depth on specific ideas, not just about black hat, why it won't work, but also like inspiring deeper ideas, talking about changes or adjustments and little tweaks that could make something really exciting. So it's a really powerful tool. Ned, I saw your question. I'm going to go ahead and ask you to follow up on that when we're at the end here. So how would you utilize it? So you want to host a version of the table for all participants, and I'll be showing you an example of how I ran this exercise. But you want to set it up in a place where a bunch of people can access it and put down their ideas. I like to send an email out for each participant for the start of each cycle, letting people know, hey, the new cycle's open. Go ahead and take a look at it again for that first cycle. Just offer your ideas on a few key points. And for future cycles, provide your responses. In order to help people keep track of what's going on, because there can be a lot of moving parts, especially when you're talking about moving between different tables, updating where the highlights are expected can be really valuable. And then after the first cycle, you're going to be focused on offering ideas inspired by what you've read, responding to ideas, elaborating, and rebuttals or corrections. So sometimes you might hear something and be like, well, that's not necessarily how that works. Here's an idea. And eventually you're going to come back and everyone's going to get to look at everyone's ideas. So you're going to get to read the responses to your ideas, and that might in turn inspire more ideas. It's really about this cascading effect of knowledge moving forward. So we're going to go ahead and take a quick look at an example of this. So this is a sheet that we worked on as part of building a new MOU for the Vail Lab. It was a collaboration between the Agency of Natural Resources and the Agency of Agriculture, and it involved a lot of high-level leadership that all wanted to be able to provide their thoughts on what needed to be in that MOU and what it needed to have in order to be a useful tool. And because that's a wide-ranging conversation, it works really well for this brainstorming exercise. And because we can't set aside a 5-hour meeting for these leaders to meet, Brainwriting was the perfect tool to gather their thoughts. So we started with our key ideas here. So we asked a bunch of questions. What are our assumptions about MOUs? What's not working in the existing MOU? What's working in the existing MOU? What are the essential elements for our new MOU? And what are essential elements for a governance model that we want to include in our MOU? And so each person would, on their cycle one, provide their thoughts, the responses, and the responses to those responses. And as you see, we had 3 people. Each has a full table of ideas. And later we brought these ideas together in a final meeting that was more bringing all the elements together. It was about themes and about ideas. And it was a really successful effort. So that, in essence, is the tool. So with that done, I would like to open things up to questions on the brainwriting exercise. Feel free to raise your hand. I did a really great, oh, there are the hands. Kaylin, I saw your hand first.
Thanks, John. That was a really helpful overview. I was wondering, do you think there's like an optimal number of people for which this is most productive for? Because I could imagine it getting out of hand with a large number of people on trying to keep things organized.
Yeah. So the thing is if you want everyone to work together on something, the number of people is going to come down to the number of cycles that you want to have. So if you want everyone to respond to everything, we had 3 cycles because we had 3 people participating. So everyone got to respond to everyone. Once you start getting, let's say, over 5, if our cycle was about a week, so that would be 5 weeks of cycles of people responding before we were done with the exercise. Now, you don't have to have everyone respond to everything. Maybe you only do 3 cycles because you just want a response to a response, and that's it. So there is no limit necessarily on how many you can do, but you saw I did have to set up a table for each person to provide their information, and then all I had to do was go in and change the names on the on each tab to let people know who was responsible for what. If you don't feel as comfortable in using OneNote, you could easily do it in Word or Excel. Any tool that allows people to work on it asynchronously, access it wherever, um, it can definitely work. But yeah, it's really just down to how much work you want to put in, but there's no hard limit on the number of people that can do it. Marcella.
Thanks. And I apologize if I missed this at the very beginning, but have you ever done this in a anonymous way? And if so, what did you have to change?
So I've never run it anonymously. I think you could certainly do it. The trick is you would have to assign people IDs. So like
Yeah.
you'd be like number 1, number 2, number 3, and then people would have to remember that ID so that they can go in and work on the next item on the list. But you could do it that way.
Yeah. Okay.